Okay, just putting the final touches on my last carding up, you might say, of some past scenes. Now, I just dated that 2018, but I didn't stamp this in 2018, but I guess I finalized the piece. In my last video, I had a video based on the matting up of a lot of pre-existing cards that I've done probably from the past, I don't know, it might be year. I don't know if it goes back 2 years, but anyways, this is something that I don't do too often, but when I do, it really strikes me that as I mentioned in the previous video, just what the matting up of scenes can do, and putting them into a card format opens up yet another aspect to card making that can really enhance, the visuals of the single piece. Now, on these cards that I've matted up, and I've just spent the last 3 days doing this, and I was going to do it really simply and, without too much fuss because, I don't know, of the time expenditure, but, as soon as I got doing this, I should have known. One thing leads to another, and this is 1, 2, 3, what did I say, 1, 2, 3, 4 mats just on this one card, but I really like the way it looks like this, Doing that really brings out those little stars and stuff like that. But anyway, you can look at that in the previous video when I mentioned a lot of things about matting and my thoughts as far as that's concerned and how it can bring out elements within the scene. But when we start going into a card format, instead of just visually, we start moving into what could be potentially a slight element of sequential aesthetics. We have this scene on the outside, then we open it up, and I have stamped a lot of quote stamps within the scene, within the card, I should say. And this one is from the Scenic, all of the quote stamps are from the Scenic Sentiment series. And I have stamped them, if they're in white, I've stamped them in a Brilliance Moonlight White, okay? The Brilliance ink dries pretty well on various surfaces, and it has a little bit of that shimmer to it, I guess. But as you can see, I like using kind of that iridescent style of paper. Not on all of these cards, but on a lot of them. I just think it looks really nice and rich, and I know, I'm a sucker for that type of thing. But anyways, visually speaking, we have this element of the stars in here, and the quote I thought was appropriate. For my part, I know nothing with any certainty, but the sight of the stars makes me dream. That's by Vincent van Gogh. And I thought, the different colors in here would kind of go with that quote rather well. I didn't have to really crowbar the quote into a scene. I thought it went fairly well. And then just kind of following along as far as sequential aesthetics and bringing continuity to 3 different areas. You call it like the first, second, and third act, of like a movie. You can follow suit with something on the back, and I just brought those elements like that. You can see the gold kind of sparkles, but the back I see is kind of like a conclusion. You want something kind of minimal. I mean, you can do anything you want, but that's my thought. I don't know, a few little stars around here would kind of be cool too. Bringing some of these same pens in here and just finishing it up back here. Maybe I'll do that on here. I'll do like a little Milky Way strand of the same colors that I used on the front. Okay? Anyways, so that being said, I didn't do 3 different surfaces on all of these, but I did it on some. Okay, this is a scene. I think this was about monotone touches to a scene from a video. I don't remember. But anyways, you can see a little lichen down here. But a picture is a poem without words by Confucius. But I thought that one went pretty well with that. And if it's stamped in black, it's just a Marvy black. You can stamp it in anything. Might be kind of nice if it was embossed, but I didn't want to do that. I've been carding up and matting for hours and hours and hours this weekend, so I love the way they came out, though. I'd really have to say these mats on here really brought this out. And let me see, the card that I used is a dark navy glossy cardstock. Okay, it's hard to find dark navy glossy cardstock, as I found out a few months ago, but a black would be really good. But I don't know, I felt that the shininess of that really matches the glossy surface of this card right here. But the clearest way into the universe is through a forest wilderness, so I thought that matched fairly well. We have this forest in here, and talking about clarity, you know, we have these beams of light shining in there, and I thought that, you know, as far as the words went in this quote, that's by John Muir, I thought it went fairly well with this one. So you open that up, and, you know, you have this quote in there, and I don't know, it kind of layers the visuals with some other type of, a different type of meaning other than visual, so it's more kind of a cerebral tie-in, and you know, the center of that card certainly brings continuity. Alright, here's my confetti, that's what I named this one, I think, lesson that I did on the Milky Way, and a lot of gel pen work in here. But dreams are like stars. You may never touch them, but if you follow them, they will lead you to your destiny. And then I put some extra little dots around here like that. And like that card that I had in the lead-in here, I just did that little patchwork of various gel pen dots in there. But I thought that was kind of a nice kind of conclusion to this card. You know, we have that, the words, and then that. I didn't want to have too much, you know, that was my thought here. If I had, you know, the same thing here, and then colored, you know, dots in here, maybe a couple would be okay, just for a little bit of continuity, but I didn't think I wanted to do that. And then I have those, you know, just kind of the concluding, I don't know, visual statement here would be kind of nice. And I kind of keep it simple, you know, if I do something out there, because this front part is really, really quite loud. You know, it's a visually explosive scene. I mean, it's really small, but there is a lot of activity and texture, so you kind of want to, it's like starting off with a bang, then you kind of cool down here, and then just that, and I don't have anything written, so that's my thoughts on that. It's kind of about pacing for me, the way I do these ones. Okay, let's see what we have here. All right, my aspen and light beams scene here. You can see I matted it in gold right here, and then that iridescent purple, and then again this is on that dark glossy cardstock. And then in here, heaven is under our feet, as well as over our heads, Henry David Thoreau. And so I thought that went really well. I thought this was a beautiful kind of landscape that you might be walking through, and it almost reminds me of like aspens. You know, when I think about aspen, not the scene, but what I was thinking about when I was stamping this was just how I thought that when walking under kind of a backlit grove of aspen in fall, I thought it looked like a living stained glass. So this quote here, you know, heaven is under our feet as well as over our heads. I don't know, you think of stained glasses and churches and whatnot, cathedrals. And then what I did to bring continuity, a visual continuity, between this and the interior, and quote, was I just used that same matting convention of the gold and that purple iridescent paper, like what's around here, into here, okay? So, I don't know, just, and I didn't put anything on the back here. I thought that was enough of a visual statement. And if I did anything on the back, I'd want some kind of beams, but it was loud enough, so that's what I did there. Okay, my purple scene. A lot of purple around in here. Okay, we have that little very pale violet matte, and then this warm kind of beige. Well, no, actually, it's gold. It's a very pale gold, but the pale gold kind of matches a lot of the tones in here. But Earth Laughs and Flowers, very simple, and I stamped it out in a violet, kind of a dark purple. Okay, so it certainly matches that in terms of theme, flowers, but also in hue. I mean, this is really about the color purple, right? So stamping that out in black or any other color just wouldn't seem appropriate. It really has to be done in purple, so. That's for all you purple lovers out there. All right. I don't know if I showed this one in the matting thing, but I kept this fairly simple on the outside in terms of my color schemes. I didn't go dark on here. I thought this kind of brown looked better on here, and I have this slight tinge of green, that matte right there, just to match some of the greenish tinges in here. I don't have all the colors that I wish I had, you know, for doing these cards, but you know, you just have to make do with what you have. And all right, in here I stamped reverse text, okay? But this one is, a lake is the landscape's most beautiful and expressive feature. It is Earth's eye, looking into which the beholder measures the depth of his own nature. Henry David Thoreau. But anyways, I mean, just, oh, one of the things I did on this card too was, I didn't like this color right here for my quote, so I have this other paper in here that I've yet layered in here. And then the quote, it just didn't seem right in dark, so I stamped it in reverse here on this dark shimmery paper, but I put this other matte of that purplish tinge, which is not on the front here, but you know, there's so much kind of iridescence running in here that it becomes kind of its own theme. So, you know, even if it's not matching in terms of colors, if it matches in terms of texture, that's fine. And I wasn't really thinking of that. I just thought it looked good, and it's what I had. So, and in the back, I put this little solo canoe just in reverse, you know, so it's my little visual tie-in as far as like a little solo canoeist, and I thought it related to the lake, of course, and just my little initials down here. Okay. Moving on. This one right here. This one was hard to come up with a quote because I don't have too many moon quotes, and I don't know, it is its own type of scene, so really quite simple. Moonlight, right? So it's kind of dramatic, and you just have that simple, very plain word in there. So it kind of makes for a contrast between the visual and something very, very minimal. Okay? And I didn't put anything on the back. I thought that was enough. That front scene is just so kind of explosively loud. Okay, this is another scene that I showed previous. This is kind of the card that I made that kind of got it in me that I really should card up some of my other past scenes. But a good traveler has no fixed plans and is not intent on arriving. And, oh, here's what I did here. I took that same matting convention, right? And then when you open it up here, right? See what I did here? Right up here, how that's kind of framed off within the scene. I did that here. So I stamped out the Follow Your Dreams, and then I put it around the same matting, but I also put the clouds in here and gave it that vignette, same vignette that's on here. Okay? So you see how that kind of gives the scene a nice continuity, like that. And these are cards. I mean, you can write to whoever, you know, dear whoever, love, you know, whoever. Okay, so that was the one thing I added to this one. I thought that went fairly well. You can just make it visual. Okay, scene right here. I love the silver around here. I thought it matches the silvery kind of gray scene in here. And good friends are like stars. You don't always see them, but you know they were always there. So, kind of a personal card for me. There's a hiker and child right here. And, I don't know. It's like parent and child can be friends too, right? Okay, so here's another 3 in that same series that I did earlier last year. We do not inherit this land from our ancestors. We borrow it from our children. A Haida Indian saying. So, certainly appropriate with the hiker and child stamp there. I didn't put anything on the back of that one. And I like this one right here. This one gives me a kind of a memory of going, just kind of hiking around, scrambling around the rocks up in the Sierras with my dad, which I really liked, and I still continued doing that same type of thing in my adult years. I love going kind of off trail, but anyways, there is a perfect quote for this for me. Do not go where the path may lead, go instead where there is no path, and leave a trail. Ralph Waldo Emerson. So, yeah, no third part to that one. Another in the 4-part series of the Hiker and Child stamp. New beauty meets us at every step in all our wanderings, John Muir. So, talking about steps, well, they're certainly out for a walk, so I thought that worked really well. There's a lot of different, there was another one that talked about color, but I guess you could do it. I've done it before where I stamped several different quotes that can be appropriate, but I kept it fairly simple. Okay, now here's another one here with light beams. And I put that whole kind of purplish tinge on it, but remember that matting right here and the previous one that I showed you, but I did the same right here. But see that same convention of the gold and purple, with the gold and purple matting right there. But I thought this quote was really nice for this one. Love must be as much a light as it is a flame, by Thoreau. And this scene is certainly about those kind of light beams coming through there and that shimmering background. So you can do all these type of tie-ins, you know, you can make it visual, you can make it, you know, you want the quote to match the, or to somewhat match the scene. But here's a really big scene. I couldn't make this into a card because it's just too big. This is a half page right here, so I don't know, just a flat like almost like postcard piece, okay? And what I did for this one, I don't know, I had a hard time coming up with like a quote for this one in the scenic sentiments, but I thought Spirit of the Wild looked really good, and I have this smaller version of the book right here. So just something really simple, right, for an otherwise very, very kind of explosively loud, yet tranquil piece, maybe, I should say. So Spirit of the Wild, and that. And this is something, like, it could be a card, where you write it to someone and you sign down here, right? But I thought that little piece down here was a good one. And it's just the smaller version of it, so I felt the larger version would be a little bit too big. But it would be okay, though, you can do that, but the smaller version worked really well. Okay, so we've seen all these cards where I have the main scene on the opening panel, okay, and then you open it up, but this one was kind of the same, but I'll show you what I did. So here's my card, okay? Nature does not hurry, yet everything is accomplished, okay? Lao Tzu. Alright, and we have our little snail here, stamped down in reverse, and then we open it up, and here's the scene right here, okay? And then I have that final piece right here, a little reversed out, but you see those little fireflies in here, okay? So we have our little fireflies right here. We're talking about pace, in nature. And we have our snail, which represents something kind of, very gradual and methodical. And we have our scene like this. But I'll tell you what, this is the way the scene was before, okay? And I opened it up to this. Okay, now this thing would have been on the back. But luckily I hadn't tacked it down so hard. But I thought, opened it up, and I thought, you know what, that would have been cool as a lead-in. And I thought, well, why not? I already had this tacked down. I thought, okay, oh yeah, all I need to do is just flip this around, and this becomes the interior, right? And then, so all I needed to do is I needed to move that piece that was previously where? Here on the interior. I needed to move it, or no, wait, it would have been here. This would have been the back. It's confusing, alright? So I just moved this back piece to this piece and flip this around, get it? So now we have this kind of this three-piece card where we have this kind of lead-in here, and it's kind of going in this direction, and we want to open it. If it's going in the opposite direction, it doesn't work quite as well, but since that snail is pointing that way, it worked perfectly, because what you want to do is you want to get people to flip something open, right, to, see what's coming next. So again, that's kind of like sequential aesthetics, when it comes to like bookmaking or something like that. And you have this one here, everything's moving out that way, hopefully someone looks at it. And these little fireflies are in here as far as the texture goes. It's a small little element, okay? And then they flip to the back, and I put that, those little similar types of things down here, but in reverse, and I just put those little fireflies down here. Alright, so we have that, that. Hopefully that makes for a kind of a fun sequence as far as the recipient of your card goes, and and you have to think about how they're going to look at it in some ways, but anyway, a lot of it is, you just kind of go with what you have, and I don't know, some of it's kind of crowbarring in, some kind of quote or some kind of theme into it, but I don't know, it all works well. And I think it enhances, in all of these situations, I think it enhances the visuals of the piece by putting it into some sort of sequential format, which a card is, okay? Even if it is like that other one where I just have the front and back, if you give some kind of continuity, and it could be the smallest thing, it could be a little glowing firefly. You can put, if I didn't have like that on the back, if I had a little inchy and I just put like one or two little dots, a glowing dot, that would be enough, and it would be appropriate, and it would be very interesting, so it's kind of about your visual pacing of it, and contrasts, And I don't know, as far as these go, I used a lot of the quotes, so we have the quote tie-ins with the visuals, so you don't have to be and this is an example of how you don't have to be thinking about all this type of thing when you start a card and you do it. You can come up with other things later. Just see what you have in your collection, and chances are you can find something that relates, or you can just go with little elements off of your existing designs. It could have been a little treetop or something like that, or you can just use your moon or a different moon somewhere, and you can make this card more about the moon. By having this quote, about hurrying, it becomes more about the pacing of it, in people's minds, and they see the snail. But if I had a moon on here and I said something like moonlight and I opened it up, we would kind of focus more on the theme of moon, Could be moonlight as sculpture. I have that quote too. Or you can just write it, moon or something like that. And that's what people are going to look at. They're going to look at the moon like that, And then they can go into the back and you can say, I don't know, whatever. Man on the moon, full moon, crescent, whatever. But, I don't know. Fun little aspect of scenery and card making, kind of all wrapped into one now. So, anyways, fun stuff. I'm kind of wiped out from all those cards and, kind of waiting to do it after a year, but I don't know. I really enjoyed it, and I really enjoyed the final result, too, when I do get around to doing that. So, anyways, a lot of you know a lot more about card making than I do, but this is my simple take on how I see the different panels being approached. All right, so thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.